So, Colin, for business leaders striving to outperform competitors and create significant business value, as we were talking, developing a well-crafted data strategy is really important, and overlooking it can lead to missed opportunities and inefficiencies, and maybe even falling behind in the competitive landscape. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's true that companies these days are, finding a competitive advantage when they have a well-crafted and well-executed data strategy. It's more and more becoming kind of table stakes for enterprises to have this figured out, and as AI is becoming more and more prevalent, and Gen AI is something that companies are starting to adopt in mass. They're finding that their data strategies and their data itself is not really up to stuff. So it's a huge opportunity right now for companies of all sizes to be evaluating that strategy and coming up with a plan for how to evolve it into what's needed for right now and in the age of generative AI. There's like a lot of different talk about how to do this, but at the high level, the way I think about it is kind of breaking it down into people, process, and technology, or platform if you want to keep P's. And that's really kind of the three areas that I think that are most important to dive into in terms of crafting the start of a modern data and AI strategy.
I really like that. The three Ps. I'm going to start using that.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll throw away the T, the technologies.
okay, yeah,
Is
replace it by platform. So looking at this a little bit more, so this the steps. Let's actually dive into people. Let's go in the order that you actually gave them. So, looking at people, I would imagine that improving their skill set is one consideration, and maybe doing a skills assessment on what is needed to improve. um, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what exactly you think about with regard to people.
Yeah, absolutely. So the skill gap is definitely one piece of the puzzle when it comes to people. Finding out where your organization is weaker or stronger, what skills need to be brought to the table or brought into the organization, is one area. The other area is depending on your organization, I mean, not probably every organization is like this, but the people are the core of kind of a lot of the value that organizations are bringing. And one of the other big things is data. Like, data needs to be the foundation of your business if you're going to have a strategy that fully takes advantage of the opportunities of data and AI today. So you need to rethink kind of how those things interplay with each other and how you can be empowering people to use data within your organization. So skills is obviously a big one, and that's one thing that's you can bring a lot of resources to bear on training, on coming up with methodologies that your people can learn and start using to make decisions with data. I think one of the pieces that people don't think about is as much as, like, you might have people in all sorts of different roles across your organization, and people are going to use data differently, are going to be having access to data differently, but you want to have a strategy that at least considers at each level kind of how people are going to be impacted by a large scale data transformation and a large data strategy shift that gives them more access to data. So how are people at the C-suite level going to be accessing data, and what are they going to be expecting of the data versus people who are middle managers or on the line at depending on your business, what they're doing day to day might not have a lot of data involved, may have more hands-on work, but they can be empowered by data as well, in a lot of cases. So you just need to be creative in terms of thinking about how to meet them where they're at with data, and then especially with AI, right? Obviously, AI brings a lot of, I think, unknowns in terms of where different functions are going to be replaced or augmented. And this is, once you figure out data, you figure out kind of the next stage of AI is going to be impacting everybody at different levels and in different amounts, and kind of making sure your strategy takes these things into account, at least from the start, thinking about them and being mindful about where, your organization is going is really important. And that'll help people become stronger and also build trust with your organization.
It sounds like I heard you say a lot of like data empowerment, empowering employees with data, and like encouraging ownership of the data strategy and continuous learning, of course. Yeah, those are great. What about like, let's dive into the other aspect that you mentioned earlier, the process. How do we tie in, we talked about the people, now let's dive into the second P, the process.
Mhm. Yeah, process is very important as well. And I think probably the most important piece in terms of how your data strategy um, gets executed, right? So one of the things that you can easily do is have your technology team be, leading the charge in terms of your data and AI strategy, and it's a very technology driven thing, but you want to try and get ahead of that in terms of what impact on the business is this going to have, and being kind of inclusive of people from the business side and the technology side can allow you to kind of establish a process that prioritizes data and AI use cases that provides value to the organization from the start, and or choosing data and AI use cases that are high impact and potentially low effort. And that's one area that within the process side of the house you want to think about, and you want to create basically a repeatable and scalable process for like identifying AI and data opportunities within your organization, so that you can start with a couple, prove out the strategy is working and the technology is working, and then be able to kind of rinse and repeat and roll it out to a larger part of the organization through like a well-structured process. So this includes obviously the technology side, like we talked about, governance. So being able to establish a governance program that has kind of data quality and data observability and understanding who's owning data, and maybe even adopting the kind of like data as assets or data as products paradigm, so that you can think of data as something that you're intentionally curating and creating as higher quality over time, and adding additional features and functionality to by kind of building that kind of process of saying, okay, data is an asset. Data can be used for this one use case, but it can also be used for 10 others that are very similar, and not try and create kind of purpose-built data sets and purpose-built data products, so that you're not kind of utilizing your resources effectively. So the process of establishing all those different things can really help you become more successful, because they end up being a little bit of a like a flywheel effect. You get a couple really good use cases, a couple things that are successes that you can point to and build on top of, and establish kind of the people policies and the technology pieces that are going to support those as your strategy evolves here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine there's like, I know we do this all the time, but I imagine there's success metrics in all this, right? Because you're looking for move the needle in some way, whether it's like reducing costs or making gains in efficiency or even revenue and that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, you always want to have some sort of ROI calculation for these use cases that you're prioritizing. Otherwise, again, it could fall into the trap of just being like a technical pet project, where you're bringing data and technology to bear, but you don't have the business side represented to show kind of what that ROI is. So you definitely want to consider the defensive type of ROI. So if there's compliance things that you can consider with your data, and prevent large data breaches or issues with data compliance laws. And then there's the new business and efficiency side of the house too. So there's a ton of opportunities to identify use cases, I'm sure, across any organization and using those frameworks to prioritize them can be very powerful.
Very good. And so let's look at the last P, which is platform. And so how does that all fit together on on a platform?
Yeah, the platform piece is, as a technologist myself, the most fun part. But basically, there's a million ways you can construct a platform these days around data, and lots of organizations you'll find have more than one data platform in place and are struggling to see the value of this kind of data strategy and data roadmap that they put together. So the way that we like to think about it is you want to build a data platform that is going to be future proof and allow you to evolve as the technology and the use cases evolve with you. So a lot of the things that we're looking at when we're selecting a platform like this is, are we based on, open source technologies? Are we using open table formats so that data can be accessed by any number of tools? Are we integrating data governance? So Databricks, like data platform, is the one that we normally go to for this because a lot of these pieces are in place and are well thought out in terms of how the current state of a data strategy and a data lake and even a data lake house might be implemented to solve the problems today of getting analytics from data in one place and having data governance. But it's got kind of this open foundation with Delta Lake and Delta Uniform, which is a really newer side of the table format space that allows for a lot of other different tools to work with it. And it allows you to really think about a platform that's going to grow and be, extensible with additional, open source technologies that come out over time, and even commercial tools that just work within these open formats. So that's the place that we spend a lot of our time is architecting around, a lakehouse structure on Databricks because of those open integrations and open source roots that they have.
When I hear you talk about the people, the process, and the platform, you're really, to me, describing like a way of doing things. And I know you're building out a center of excellence. Can you tell me, what is, I guess, as you would define a center of excellence for a firm like ours, and what are the key characteristics of it?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think for a data strategy approach, a center of excellence like methodology is a really good one, and one that I've seen be successful over time. So for a company like ours, I kind of define it as an organization within a company that is bringing to bear the skills and the process and the technology and the guidance of like an executive committee or a steering committee together to help build out a level of maturity that can help achieve the goals of the organization. So be able to build momentum around executing against a data strategy quickly by bringing in the expertise, by organizing things in the right way, whether it be centralized or decentralized. It kind of depends on the size of your organization, but there's a lot of benefit in thinking about a center of excellence model to execute a data strategy. So in my past, work in financial services, we had a center of excellence model for driving change in machine learning, and it was I think, very good model that I think it enabled the organization to have a very accelerated kind of growth in the machine learning and kind of modern data engineering space. And the components of that are, having a centralized team of really expert technologists and product managers and program managers and folks who understand how to implement these types of processes and these types of technologies. Having like a buy-in from the top level, so from the C-suite on down, you have kind of like a buy-in and a steering committee that helps make decisions on, okay, what are the use cases that you're going to be tackling? So that process side, I think they're deeply involved in the process of selecting use cases and making sure that they are the highest ROI use cases available. And then, from there, you're building, an organization that taps into the other key pieces of, what makes your company great. So if you have a solid architecture team or a security, organization, you want to have deep ties into those places so that what you're building can be, can be in alignment with everything that has been built so far on the technology and security side of the house. And then you also want to think about the model of how your center of excellence is going to grow. It might start small with a centralized group, but if you have a large enterprise, that is going to potentially not be something that is a good setup for long term. You want to have kind of like a model where your center of excellence may grow outside of just one group and start to become something that lives on in maybe different lines of business, and have an area that organizes and helps disperse best practices and the ways of implementing the data strategy as it kind of takes on its more operational stage.
Yeah, and watching you build our center of excellence, it's exciting to see like people that normally don't show up to workshops or something, they're there, and the teams are larger than you might expect, and the excitement and buzz seems to be contagious.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy when you build a center of excellence that can be harnessed. So usually you're building it about something that people are excited to get involved in. Data and AI is something that I think gets a lot of people really excited about the types of things that they can learn and the types of activities that they can start getting involved in on a day-to-day basis of their jobs. So it's a great opportunity for learning and development throughout the organization, and for people to blossom as leaders as well. So there's there's a lot of fun to be had if you establish a center of excellence and you can build a culture around learning and development. Then you can be very successful with your transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that we have a lot of clients asking about AI, it's so popular. It's great to see that we have the center of
Yeah,
excellence
well,
information and always enhancing.
absolutely. Well, I think one of the other benefits is like there's companies of all sizes. Some are going to be able to establish their own center of excellence and have the resources to hire experts across all these different types of roles to build out a successful data strategy and execute it. And there's companies that are going to need to bring in outside resources. So having the ability, like ourselves as a consulting firm, to come in and be that center of excellence for people or help build a center of excellence for people is a huge opportunity for taking advantage of this process and this method that is proven and successful, but not necessarily costing an arm and a leg and investing millions of dollars in new resources. So at the end of the day, that's this can be applied at all levels.
Absolutely. And recently I got asked about us building out a center of excellence for somebody else. So there you go.
Perfect. Well, let's do it.
Let's do it. So anyway, I mean, I think I didn't want to take up a lot of time. I think this was really great. We covered a lot of ground in, a few minutes, learned about data strategy, people, process, platform, and building out a center of excellence. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I'd say don't be afraid of trying to build a strategy and going for it. And it's not that daunting, but if you need help, we're here to help.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Colin. I'm going to
You bet.
put another time on your calendar to do this.